How long have I been wrestling?
No. Why did you get into this?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. That's a new one.
Yeah.
An extension of childhood. I never wanted to grow up. I just wanted to play around my whole life. No, I on the serious side, I always wanted to be in pro sports or entertainment, and I knew by maybe grade 4, grade 5 that I wanted to do sports or entertainment, and wrestling gave me the opportunity to do both.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a sports thing at a professional level, and it's entertainment.
Huge entertainment.
Yeah, and I was never a musician, but I always liked music and singing and things like that. And I was fortunate enough again to be able to create a character in professional wrestling that gave me the ability then to go out and also sing songs. So it's been quite gratifying.
How did you come up with the character?
It was a takeoff of, there was a TV show on in the States at one time called Three's Company, and it was a lady and her 2 daughters living in an apartment, and the apartment maintenance man was hair slicked back and pencil thin mustache, the white t-shirt with the cigarettes rolled under the sleeves, and I kind of started with that character, and he had the sideburns. I created the character off of this particular slimy guy because I was what they call a bad guy back then, a heel, not the good guy I am now.
Yeah.
I know you. Oh, that's a matter of opinion. but anyway, I did it that way, and some wrestling fans came along. They saw the sideburns, they saw the black hair, and they asked me had I ever considered doing any Elvis thing, and I said, oh, of course not, because I was a Beatles and Rolling Stones fan. I like to listen to their music. I was not into Elvis thing because we were force-fed Elvis being where I was living in Memphis, because he was from there, and of course all those corny movies that he made that he didn't even like himself, from what I understand. We had to go to the movies on Saturday afternoon to watch Elvis, you know, Viva Las Vegas and Blue Hawaii and all this nonsense. So I said, no, I've never really been into Elvis. And they said, well, we want to make you something. Did we get your measurements? And they took my measurements. I had no idea what they were making. A month later, they show back up, and they had me this gold lame jumpsuit. And that's how it all started. And then one of the wrestling promoters in that area that I was working for, when he saw this gold jumpsuit, the black hair and the sideburns, he asked, had I ever considered using the guitar? Do I know how to play the guitar? I said, absolutely not. He said, man, that'd be great if you had the guitar and you go out and you hit them over the head with it. So none of it was my creation. None of it. None. And I was very fortunate that the wrestling fans, I tell young guys, always listen to the fans, because not only are they supporting you by coming to see your show and buy the tickets from you, but they're fans because they sit around and they think and they talk about wrestling a lot more than we do who are in the business. People who are in the business don't really want to talk about wrestling, but the fans do. So if you listen to them like I did, you can't go wrong. And it's worked very well.
And you were, what, 24 then? Is that when you started?
I started I was 76. Was playing around with it a little bit, and I was teaching school at the time and coaching high school football, and then by 77 I had resigned from teaching and coaching and went full-time wrestling. So I was out of college, 24, 25.
And how do you
seems like
prepare
only
for like that?
Seems like only yesterday, except for the numbers, the age.
How do you prepare for a career in wrestling? Like, because the thing is, people look at it and they think, oh, that's all fake, but it's pretty hardcore.
It's a never-ending learning experience, because every day is a new day. Every match you're in is a different match. Every venue you go in is a different venue or a building. Every ring you're in is a different kind of a feel of a ring. The one I was in the past few nights has been the most horrendous, terrible piece of display of architecture I've ever been in. Who designed it? Who put that together and called it a ring? It was like concrete, lumpy concrete with holes in it. So the preparation takes years. I trained for 9 months, two nights a week. I trained in a barn, and the only water to drink was where the horses and the cows drink out of the trough. The only shower was to take the water from the horse trough and wash ourselves. But the old fella had a ring in his barn, and he was a very talented old timer who had retired. And he trained me, and the training consisted of just a lot of hard bumps, slams, stomps, kicks, punches, you name it, and we did it to each other. And I thought that was hard until I had my first few matches, when I thought I was ready. I'm ready to go. No, I wasn't ready. Even after 9 months, and even after now 30 years, do I feel like I'm ready? No, because every night, every day is a different day, a different learning experience. Because you meet so many different people. You meet so many different styles of wrestlers. You know, you have the big guy, maybe back in my day it was Andre the Giant. He was a giant, so he didn't wrestle with you the same way that a smaller guy or a guy that's your size would wrestle with you. You might have the big, strong, muscular guy who's doing the army tank thing where he can't be bulldozed over, so you have to adapt to it and go along with it. I don't like going in with those big guys like that because they have the tendency to want to, I have to show the fans how strong I am, so they want to pick you up and slam you down on that hard piece of concrete that they call a wrestling ring sometimes.
Do you figure it out before? Like, do you guys plan what you're going to do before?
It has been, but in some cases, no. I don't particularly like to plan. I have to now. Years ago, we did not do it. It was not planned. There was no way to plan. You show up at the building, we had separate locker rooms. The good guys and the bad guys were never together. If you were seen together, you got fired from the company. A lot of times you didn't know what you were doing till you got into the ring. It might be told to you by the referee when you arrive in the ring or during the course of the match. You would be told as you're wrestling. Nowadays, it's the guys are more together, like was in this movie that came out with Mickey Rourke, the wrestler, where everyone's together in the locker room. And so much more now is pre-planned because of television, especially in the big company, because everything has to be timed for the TV product. So every move has to be choreographed. Everything has to be done time-wise. And for me personally, I wasn't trained that way, and it's hard for me to adapt to a script. I like to wrestle off the cuff. I like to do an interview off the cuff. I don't like canned questions with canned answers. I can do them, but they're not any good.
Are you considered a good guy or a bad guy?
Now I'm a good guy. Now I'm a good guy, which is good because now I get to go out at intermission and sell my photos and take pictures with the fans and make money. Whereas before, the bad guy never was able to do that. In the old days, bad guys need to stay in the locker room. Bad guys need to be bad guys. You got to be mean and hateful to all the fans. We don't want the fans cheering. We don't want them liking you. We don't want them to see you in any way but a bad guy. So while the good guy was out making $200 or $300 extra every night, because us bad guys made him look so good, made him shine like new money. He would be making $200 or $300 extra every night, and we would come out of the arena, and 10 people would be surrounded to our car, ready to beat us up or kill us. Or I had the windows broken in my car. I had my tires slashed. And the good guy gets in his car with all the pretty girls yelling and screaming, like beboppers and chewing bubble gum with their ponytails and jumping around, and he's driving away.
Don't you know the girls always like the bad guys?
Well, I don't know. I had my share of them, but I don't know if they like the bad guys.
They do. Girls always like the bad boys.
I suppose, but I mean, the bad guys never got the really nice girls, the nice looking. We never got the ones that had any money either. I mean, you know, that's another thing. These girls, they're supposed to buy us our beer, and they're supposed to take us out and go get our lunch and bring it to us. And I don't know, things have changed.
So do you have to keep in character all the time? Like when you're at an event and you leave, you run into fans. Do you have to be in character?
No, I don't know. That years ago, yes, they wanted you to, even if you went into the restaurant, you had to be mean and hateful to the. Why would you want to do that? Be mean and hateful to the person that's serving you when you know they probably go back to the back and, you know, it's. I tried to not to go out a lot. When I had my big heyday in WWE with Jimmy Hart, and I had the Intercontinental Championship, there were people who, the fans are extremely serious about this wrestling thing. They take it very seriously. They believe in some things. It's, even though their eyes, they see it with their eye, they have to know that this is not possible, but they still believe it. And during that course of time, for that year and a half, that we were so over as bad guys. I didn't go out. I didn't go to restaurants. I didn't go to bars. I still don't go to bars. I hate going to bars. I don't like it, simply because wrestling and drinking in a bar crowd just does not mix. It's just a place where there's always going to be some yahoo that wants to prove his manhood, and the more cans of courage he drinks, the more courage he has to then say, well, you're not so tough. You big wrestlers aren't so bad. And the next thing you know, there's a squabble. And since we're the outsiders, we're not from the town, we're the ones who end up with the harshest punishment. And then there's a case of sometimes we're outnumbered in those places. There's more of those good old boys than there might be of us. So I tend to just get my little few beer and head on back to wherever I have to go.
So what do you consider your heyday? What was the sort of highlight of your career?
Oh gosh, it had to be the 86, 87, 88, that the WrestleMania growing into its own after WrestleMania 1 and 2. It became a huge event. At WrestleMania 3 that I was part of, almost 90,000 people, the indoor attendance record. It's still held today. It hasn't been broken. That was probably the highest point, but it continued on after that. It never slowed down, and all the way through my almost 5 years with that company, we were every night, no matter where we were, the buildings were sold out, turn-away crowds. It was just a phenomenal thing. We touched a generation of people. We touched a whole generation. I say that because there's grandfathers and grandmothers who know us now, and there's the kids that were 7, 8, 9 years old back then. They now are in their 30s and 40s and have their own children, and they bring their children to see us to say, this is the guy your grandpa used to take me, and we watched him every Saturday morning on TV. So we actually did touch a whole generation of people, and that makes us uniquely different. We're walking, living cartoon characters.
So how did that feel? Like in the heyday when you're filming events like that, how did that feel?
You know, of course, the paychecks were great, so that was very gratifying. I don't think we appreciated it, or we realized it was so big, because we were doing it 300 days a year. We did 60, 70 shows straight in a row without a day off, and then you get 1 day off or 2 days off, and all you wanted to do then was wash your clothes and you're back out again. And I was living in Calgary when I first started. First time I left for 65 days. My son was crawling. When I came home after 65 days, I had 2 days off. He was walking. So, and living in Calgary and flying all over Canada and the America, and of course around the world, Calgary wasn't the greatest place to commute out of. So I needed to find a place, a central location. So I moved back to Memphis, where there was a good airport hub system for Northwest Airlines. And I'll give you an example. If I finished my tour in Miami, let's say, and I had 3 days off, well, from Miami to Calgary, it takes 1 day to get home. And if I was starting back, say, from Calgary, and maybe I'm going to Halifax or to Moncton or to Texas, South Texas, I've got to leave 1 day early as a travel day to get there to work that night. So I really only had 1 day to really be at home. And then that 1 day consisted of getting clean clothes. We worked so much, and it was so hectic. My wife I set up a FedEx account. She would FedEx my clean clothes 3 or 4 days in advance to a hotel where I was going to be staying. I would get there, pick up my clean clothes, box up my dirty clothes, and ship them home.
For her to do at home?
Yeah, she'd do the laundry.
So how is this on your wife?
Sometimes we just throw the clothes away.
How is this on your wife? She must have never seen you.
It was obviously very difficult. I mean, sometimes I'm home now during the course of a week or 2 weeks, or which I do the independent scene now where I only work on weekends. So I have a lot of time off during the course of the week. And like the Christmas holidays, I'm usually home between mid-November to mid-January, not any work. And it's boring. The most boring thing in my life is to be home. And she's working now, so I'm home alone. Just me and my cat. And he can't talk. I have a great conversation with him, but I don't know if he understands me.
So you don't like to be home for long periods of time?
No, and so now I equate that to her staying home with a small baby for three months at a time without seeing me. My phone bill was the most expensive thing we had. It was $600-700 a month, just talking on the phone. Then we moved to Memphis, and I put her in a really a bad situation. We started building a house from scratch. Her being Canadian, she didn't understand our southern dialect too well. And of course, there was a lot of the contract people were black Americans. And she did not understand them at all because most of them had a heavier southern accent than me. So we were on the phone sometimes 3-4 times a day with she's talking about this didn't get put in right and what am I going to do about this. And now she's away from her parents and her family that was left in Calgary, and she's in this city all alone with this baby, and it was tough. It was tough on her. She ended up being the strong one, because to me the hardest part's being at home. Anyone can come out here, ride these highways like we do, and live this life I live, I think, if they really work hard and try. But for someone to sit home and be lonely, that's like prison.
How long have you guys been married?
25 years. Yeah, 25 years.
Do you think that's because she doesn't have to see you very often?
Yeah. You laugh now, but it's true. They don't want me home. You know what they say when I come home? You are disrupting our schedule. So, yeah, they don't want me home. They don't know where I am now. If you call there, say, where is he? If my daughter answers, she'll say, I'm not sure. He took 3 bags, so he's probably going to be gone longer than the weekend, because I'll usually travel just 2 bags. If I'm going for an extended period of time, like this is a 5-day trip, then I have to bring more bags and more clothes. My son, he has no idea. He didn't know I was leaving. The other day he came down the steps. He said, "Are you going somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, I have to go to Canada this weekend." I didn't say where, so he don't know where I'm at. He don't know.
So how do you think
Canada's
it
a big
affected
country.
your relationship with your kids and your parenting? If they didn't, when you were away so much when they were growing up, how do you think that? Do you think that affected it, or?
I'm sure it did. I was never away from my mother and father. We grew up on a small farm outside of Memphis, and my mother didn't work until I was grown up in my high school years. My dad had a city job there where he worked mornings and was home in the daytime all day. We did the farm work. So not to have the parent, but then I spent so many years on the road alone in hotel rooms that I grew accustomed to not having anyone around me, or not having friends or relationships. And I had been 12 years in the wrestling business when I met my wife, so my skin had become pretty tough. And for her, I think it was exciting to hear I'm meeting this person and we're going to travel and I'm going to move to the States, and I'm a Canadian. I'm going to get to be down in the States and enjoy those things the Americans do, which could be good or bad. But the children, I never sit down with them and ask them, because I think until they get older, like my son now is old enough at 24 to give me a logical answer. My daughter, who's almost 17, I'm not sure whether she would say, "Yes, Dad, I do the things I do because you were never here for me." And I always tried to provide for them a positive way. I didn't shower them with these love offerings because Dad's been gone, so here, go buy anything you want. It was still, my house was, if you walked in my house today, you'd never know a wrestler lived there, because I never let my home become a shrine to me or my business. And I know fellas in the business who, they have one whole room of nothing but their wrestling photos and their costumes, and it's like a shrine to them. And I try to keep my children, my family, away from that. We never talked the wrestling business at home or anything. I've never taught my son the wrestling business. I never taught my daughter anything other than to come and help me sell photos and take pictures. That's about all they know about it.
So when you're home, it's like you're a totally different life.
Yeah.
The persona's gone.
Who's that calling me? I know better than to have phones on a television set.
So, I mean, they don't, they don't have any kind of resentment for you.
As far as I know, I've not sat down and asked them, but if they do something that they have never blamed something that they've done on me because of what I do for a living. So apparently, my daughter, she's never known anything other than me being gone, and neither is my son. So it's difficult to answer that question the way you put it, because I was never around anyway. I was never there for the PTA meetings. I was never there to take them to soccer practice and do all. I mean, I just was the dad that showed up sometimes at the soccer game going, "Wow, this is really fun." There was a time in my life where I was off for about a year, and I was with them for a year. But I think they got bored of me and wanted me to be gone again. So, I can be off now for a month, and they go, "Dad, are you ever going to work again? When is he leaving?"
Was there a certain celebrity for them to have you as a dad? Like, was that? Did that make you kind of say, "Wow"?
I don't know. I didn't. It's like I said, my home was never a shrine to me or to the wrestling business, and I never walked around the streets of my neighborhood with a jumpsuit on, with my hair fixed like Elvis. So in my neighborhood, I was just Roy and Megan's dad. Nothing more, nothing less. I didn't have neighbors never came, knocked on the door for autographs. I'm sure they told their friends, they told their neighbors. On the odd occasion, I might sign something for the mail lady to give to one of her grandchildren or something. But other than that, it was one of those things where we totally downplayed it. Totally downplayed it. Or if someone said, "I'd really like to meet your dad," it's always been a no, because I don't want to mix my business life in with our personal life. If I'm in a restaurant and somebody recognizes me and comes over, I'll be cordial and talk to them and say something. But there comes a time when I have to shoo them away. You know, if they overstay their time, and I'm having my dinner with my family, shoo, get away. I have to turn bad guy.
So let's talk a bit about the actual wrestling and the performance aspect of it. But there's also a real physical wear and tear.
It's physically demanding, yes.
How badly have you been injured? What kind of injuries have you had?
Let's start with the newest one, working backwards. The broken, severed finger. And you can see it's still swollen. This happened in July of 2008. And this is the only injury where I did take time off. I took a month off just to do rehab and therapy, to twist it and bend it and try to get it to ever straighten up. I did a stupid stunt I shouldn't do where we banged two guitars together and somehow or another my finger almost got cut off and broken. So that's been the toughest one lately. But I've had 4 broken noses, numerous perforated eardrums. My ears never got cauliflowered, although there's one a little bit harder than the other on the inside from the cartilage. In the old days, the guys had the big cauliflower ears. That never happened. I've been torn pec muscle in my chest. I would equate to the finger, but I never took off. If I fell in the water now because of the torn muscle, and it's a major muscle in your body, I can't swim. I would literally drown, probably. Some doors I can't open because I can't pull a certain way. It still hurts me. It's been 25 years. I've been to numerous chiropractors, orthopedic doctors who've given me tons of cortisone shots. I learned how to give them to myself. I go down to Tijuana, Mexico now, and I buy the cortisone, and I come home and if I need a shot. I taught my children how to be chiropractors. They know how to crack my back and my neck. I try to teach them how to give me the shots of cortisone, but they just won't do it. You know, it's very difficult. I'm a right-handed guy, so if you have to go left-handed, one night I had the needle and I had it. I said, "Would somebody please come in here and help me?" My daughter says, "What?" Here's the needles hanging in my arm. She said, "Oh, Dad, what is?" I said, "Just come here. Just push the plunger down, okay?" Because my shoulder was hurting so bad that I could not even raise my arm to comb my hair or even to shave. I put that shot in. I said, "Heck with this. I'm sticking my arm." I put the shot in. Got that rush. Whoa, what a rush. That cortisone gives you that burning rush of a feeling, and then it starts to ache like crazy, like a bad toothache. But I went to bed that night, woke up the next day. It's not hurting me a bit. It's been good.
Is there a weird kind of pleasure you get out of being hurt when you're in the ring?
No, absolutely not. No, there's that's sadistic.
So now you get to know me a little bit. But you gotta.
That's the after hours part. That's not something. No, I don't take any pleasure in a 300-pound guy dropping his knee across my neck. I don't take any pleasure in that at all. No, it's not gratifying either. But it's the pain and the injuries. That comes with the life I chose.
And that's okay.
I mean, that comes with it. You know that if you play football or God forbid, I'd never learn to play hockey, but that is a brutal sport. I mean, these guys are going 80 miles an hour on skates and just banging into each other like crazy. At least we're just kind of walking around and getting slammed from 4 foot high. These guys are hitting these boards. Man, that's brutality at its worst. Not for me. Now, those guys are tough, not me. But it comes with it. And they know that when they start to play hockey. You know you're going to fall. You know you're going to get hit. You know somebody's going to high stick you. That's all part of the game. And it's not for the weak at heart. If you don't have, and I call it, you know, grit in your craw. If you don't have that grit in your craw and that toughness, there's a lot of jobs, period, you'll never make it on. You know, you'd never be a lineman for the county if you can't climb the pole in the middle of winter and work on the electrical or the cable TVs that's up on those poles. So there's hazards to every job. The pain, now, when I was younger, I healed up much faster. Now it takes longer. That's all. That's the only difference. The pain's still the same. But no, I never took pride in walking around with a black eye or you know, blood dripping out of my ear for some unknown reason. Nah.
What do you like about it? What is it that keeps you there after all these years? It's something I love to do. It's something I always wanted to do. It's something I enjoy doing. I enjoy going out and even though there's that risk factor of being injured to even being severely injured, that doesn't come into my mind. But I enjoy going out entertaining the fans, whether it be 50 of them or 50,000. Someone says, boy, is this really different, you being in a crowd like this with 150 people or being in front of 95,000? I said, no, it's all the same. The ring's still shaped the same. The locker room still smells the same. Still looks the same. Guys walking around, hauling themselves down and putting bandages on, taping themselves up. That doesn't change. The bigger crowd just means hopefully you'll make more money. But I do it for money also. I don't do this for free. Do you think it's more you wanted to be an entertainer? Is it a performance thing that attracted you?
I think so. I tell the kids in the locker room, I even told some last night, I said, how was it out there? And they said, we had fun. Because I told them before they went out, just go have fun. Came back, I said, how was it? They said, it was great, we had fun. I said, that's what it's all about. When you stop having fun on your job and you dread getting up and going to your job and you're going to be a grumpy person at your workplace, then stay home. Find something that makes you happy, because if you're happy, you will be successful.
Now, you know, in the movie, they had that locker room scene where they're all, you know, the camaraderie was really great in the locker room. Is that true? Are you friends with most of the guys who do this? It
is. The camaraderie in the locker room is, for the people who didn't see this movie, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, then if you're into wrestling, I would go watch it, and this would tell you some of the things that I'm saying that they did, which is true. There's camaraderie. Do I know the fellows? Personally, no. I have friends after all these years. I call on a daily or a weekly basis 4 people, 3-4 people, out of all the people I've met, out of all the people I've wrestled, out of all the people I've shared cars with and shared hotel rooms with, shared everything else with. It's more of a business acquaintance than it is a friendship. There's a bond and a friendship like a fraternity, but it's not the friend like someone you can call and say, I'm in dire straits, you know, can you come over and watch my house? My wife's in the hospital. Not that kind of friend.
Is there rivalries? Are they real?
Yes. Yeah, the rivalries, some of them get really heated. There was one in particular that most people will remember. It was the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels rivalry that took a life of its own. In fact, if it had continued on, there might have been a life lost. These guys were at it that much that there could have been some real danger of someone getting severely injured. it was a personal thing with them. It grew out of the business into a personal dispute that turned really, really nasty and really extremely personal, to an actual fist fight in the locker room prior to one of the events, prior to the Montreal, what they call screw job. And I knew that this one was going to be bad, because there was just a personal dislike between the two characters, and it boiled down to a really nasty display of unprofessionalism on a lot of people's part.
That's pretty rare, though.
It's rare. It's rare. I see it. I see it. That was the first time I'd seen it in several years, especially on that level, at that high end of a business that they were involved in with this WWE. But I've since seen it once or twice more on some of these small independent shows where, and it wasn't, one time it was about some guy who was hitting on some other's girlfriend, so now they're going to actually fight about it in the locker room where I live. I mean, that's like my home, that's my castle. Don't bring your personal, because don't bring your girlfriend around the wrestling business if you don't want somebody to hit on her then. Keep her away from us. We're bad guys. But the thing I'm trying to say is that those two fellas should not have been arguing in front of us. We don't want to hear their argument. Take that away from us. Take it outside. I broke into business. We were told, never bring your personal life in that locker room. Never dispute anything about this business in front of anybody in the locker room. You take them off to the side. You go back in the bathroom somewhere, which we call the office. Take them in the office, which is the bathroom. Of all places. Dirty, smelly bathroom, that's the office. But you take them in there, you take them outside. Same as Sean and Brett. They were wrong to be fighting in the locker room in front of all the other wrestlers. They should have went outside to settle that dispute, because it became a personal dispute, not a business dispute. And then the one other time I saw two fellas arguing and pushing, just several months ago, over something that happened in the match. You didn't do something right in the match, and then one word led to another. And you're going to fight over, you're going to actually do something real now over something that was fake. I'm going to fight you over something that was fake. That would be like two actors or actresses fighting each other backstage because one of them missed their line. You didn't say your line properly, which messed me up, so I'm going to fight you. I see the business a different way. The young fellas aren't trained as well as we were. They're not as professional. They're more athletic, I think. Their bodies are in a lot better shape. I mean, where's the old guy with the beer belly and the buggy whip arms? That's the bad guy of yesteryear. The one that had the hairy chest, his hair was all messed up, and had a tooth out, and beer belly, and little buggy whip arms, and little skinny legs. People hated him. The business has changed.
Now, do you think steroids, and when they talk about, is that kind of a mandatory thing that they have just to keep up with?
Well, it's a person. That becomes a personal choice of what you ingest in your body. I would say drink more beer, but I did the steroids. I did them. I did a lot of them. We had access to them every day, whether it be from somewhere in a gym or go to Mexico to get them, or bring them back from England, or bring them back from Germany when we were overseas. Or we had doctors. There was a Canadian doctor that gave them to us in Canada, multiple dosages. It was why he's not in prison, I do not know. There was at least, let me count, at least 8 or 10 doctors across America that were giving them to us. But at that point, now I'm going back to a time where the doctors could prescribe them to us. But I mean, even today, doctors can prescribe steroids to people. There is steroid treatment. My mother was given steroids for cancer treatment. She was given this stuff called Decadurabolin, which I was buying for $10 a bottle And her cancer doctor was charging her $60 a bottle. Now this is 30 years ago. I mean, I said, Mom, it's the same stuff. I can give you the shot myself. She believed in her doctor as opposed to, well, she's not around anymore. But there again, we took them. I did. Is it as prevalent today? I think it's not so much in the open today. We were pretty much open about it. In fact, we were so open about it that at one time they had a meeting with us and says, look, fellas, we got to clean this thing up. You've got to stop leaving your syringes laying around. Because guys, what guys would do, they don't have very many of these anymore. The old toilets, where you take the top off, the guys would drop the syringes down in there. Now, unless the maintenance man had to come in and perform some maintenance, there might be some needles laying around in those toilets somewhere in America today. But they said, you got to stop doing that. We're getting trouble from the buildings, and, you know, it's a health issue now, and we just can't have it anymore. So the fellas then had to go more underground.
How did it make you feel when you're on steroids?
It's a different feeling. You have a... It depends on which kind you take. Now, I don't want to get into that because that's a whole new documentary. But depending on the kind you take, but back then we were mostly taking this testosterone. It makes you feel manly. It's Viagra's much better for you. But it gives you that feeling of, it gives you that invincible feeling. It makes you really feel like you could run through a door. It makes you feel like you're strong. And when I tore my pec, and we were talking about this earlier, I was on higher dosages of the testosterone at that point. Now my body was in great shape. I'm going to tell you, I was in love with my own body, and that's usually what happens to us. We fall in love with our own body when you take that stuff, because you start seeing things about your body you've never seen before. And so I was in love with my body to the point where, man, I'm looking great now. And I can show you photos. There's not too many of them around, but there usually one on a baseball card we had. And I was standing, pointing like this, and the arms hanging there, and the chest is out. I'm all shaved down and tanned. Oh boy! But it gives you that feeling. And at that point, I was in the gym and I started working out, training hard. Heavy weights. And about a week later, I just raised my arm up to clothesline a fella, and my whole pectoral muscle just fell out right. It came right out. Now when I see the fellas getting torn muscles in the wrestling, I know what they're doing.
What about
You just don't start tearing muscles for no reason.
Yeah. What about drugs and alcohol? Is there a lot of
It was... Now, I don't. These kids are ready to play video games. They want to drink bottled water, play video games, talk about their match. They spend hours. They all take their matches and go look at them. It's like, come on, man, let's go get a 12-pack or something. Have some fun. You know, they don't do it anymore. They don't. I never see uppers or downers or a little bit of marijuana still around, but not much. Not like it used to be. I mean, I smoked as much marijuana as anybody. We smoked it on a trip like this, just 4 hours riding in the car. Gosh, that'd have to be a dozen joints. Yeah. Now, back then we didn't drink before the matches. It's something I never did. I never drank before the matches. I do now because it's out of boredom. And I don't smoke the marijuana anymore. And I don't take any of the uppers or any of the downers. We would hit a speed for a trip like this. We were taking these diet pills called fasting caps. Fasting. Heck, they keep you up for about 13, 14 hours. Drink that Timmy Hortons coffee. So we had one of my friends, he's passed away now, Big Hercules. He used to say, because he'd just be all itchy and moving around, and he was all pumped up. He'd say, man, give me one of them fasting caps. For what? He says, if you're gonna stay hired, you gotta be wired. So, but then it becomes a cycle. the steroids keep you up, the pills keep you up, and then you have injuries. You're sore, you're tired, you need to get to bed because you got to be up and at the airport the next morning at 6 or 7 to do it all over again. So now you have to take the Valium and the Halcyon and the sleeping pills, and so that's a never-ending cycle, and it's a cycle that we were very few people can say they weren't involved in.
And what you were saying before, they've lost a lot of people to that.
Yeah, most of them. I mean, they come out with this bogus, well, he had a heart attack. 40-year-old men in great health and good physical condition, just the national average is just not that we're all falling dead of a bad heart. Something has caused that. And it's just because of, I mean, even Davy Boy Smith, who passed away, had a massive heart attack. They said he had a heart attack. Well, he did have a heart attack, but what caused it? Well, he had a weak heart muscle. This guy was as strong as an ox. He was 260 pounds, all pumped up, but he had a weak heart. See, that's something that the steroids, the heart muscle is made of a muscle that does not respond to that kind of what do you call it, a foreign substance. Whereas the actual skeletal muscles, they will respond to the steroid by growing bigger and growing stronger, but the heart doesn't. And I don't, the testing level now in the big company is more stringent. Guys are afraid. The young guys are definitely afraid because they are the first ones to be tested. Say the young fellas in the locker room tonight, they're all wanting to look good and get the job. So if they get called up tomorrow to go down to the Fed, they'll probably get drug tested tomorrow if they got called up. So they have to, be pretty careful. That's the difference in now and back then.
I always wondered, do you think wrestling is like soap operas for guys?
Well, we have girls in it too, so.
But the element of women watch soap operas. Not too many men watch soap operas.
Oh, okay, I see. I see what you're saying.
But there's the fantasy element of what you guys do, which is clearly, there's a lot of, it's fantasy, but people get so involved in it.
Yeah, the women or the ladies tend to, other than the young girls who want to be the divas nowadays, they want to dress in the skimpy outfits and be involved in wrestling or be on television, they would probably be an audience there. As far as the working mom, she's got 2 kids and a husband, and she's not going to be sitting there watching wrestling. You're right. It's going to be dad sitting there with the son or grandpa with the 2 grandkids while mom and dad are out shopping or out having dinner. Yeah, it's a man thing. Yeah. It's so is pro football. So is hockey and basketball. My wife never sits around and watches a football game or a hockey game or a basketball game. My son does. I do, but she doesn't.
But this has an element of, performance and disbelief that.
Yeah, it is. That's a good way for you to put it. It's a man's soap opera. The men watch it like the women watch a soap opera, and the men watch our soap opera like the women watch it.
And your fans are
like
pretty
sands through the hourglass. So are the days of our lives.
Your fans are pretty devoted, aren't
they? They are very devoted, extremely good fans. Canadian fans are more devoted than the Americans. I find it to be. Canadian fans know more about the wrestling. They're not as critical, and they don't critique our stuff like the Americans are very critical and hard to entertain. The Canadian fan is there to be entertained and enjoys it, no matter what level it is. The American fan, they expect carnage and debacles. They want someone's head cut off, and we will kill him. We want him dead. Cut his arm off. Then if he cut the arm off, he didn't really cut it off. Cut the other one off. But the Canadian fans aren't that rabid for this sick entertainment.
Do you think have the stakes gone up with that? Like where people want more and more blood? And
Yes, yes. They want more and more of these big high spots, we call them. The guy climbs to the top and he flips off 10 times. Somebody's there to catch him. I've always thought, why would I want to catch him? Why wouldn't I just, oops, not tonight, splat. But I don't get involved in that nonsense they do. You don't stay around for 30 years by doing stupid stuff, other than getting your hand broken by a stupid guitar trick. Yeah. I mean, I can do what I do and entertain the people just as well as those young boys who want to do 50 things in 5 minutes. I'd rather do 5 things in 5 minutes.
Now, isn't that how Owen Hart met at his end?
All he had to do was say, you know, I'm not comfortable doing this. I really don't want to do it. He'd be alive today if he'd have just said no. And that's what I tell the fellows when I train them and I go do teaching seminars. The same thing. Don't be afraid to say no. It's better to offend someone by saying no than it is to go out and offend them on a higher level by doing something you couldn't do, which makes them look bad or hurts them or hurts yourself. So don't be afraid to say, I'm not really comfortable doing that. And I think anyone would understand. And if someone says, no, I guess let's go ahead and do it. You just say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel comfortable climbing up on this ladder and jumping off on this table that might have a spike sticking through it that might kill me.
And are you guys actually trained to do that? Like,
I never trained for no nonsense like that. I don't know how they train for. I don't know how you would train for that. That, to me, that's moronic. You got to be a complete moron to climb up on a 10, 12, 18-foot ladder and then dive off onto a table. And the table's got metal in it. And what if one of the legs of the table breaks and it goes right through you? I mean, it's over. For what? On some of these little independent shows, these guys get $10. Some of them just get gas money.
So what do you think that is?
I don't know what kind of sickness that is. I mean, I don't know. It's one I cannot understand. It's one that, well, it's not in my repertoire. It's not in my little bag of tricks. So it's one that since I don't use it, I don't want to know anything about it.
It's almost like a death wish.
Yeah, and that's what I tell them. It's death-defying stunts you're trying to pull, and we are not stuntmen. We are wrestlers. Stuntmen have things. They have big pads they fall on. They dive through a plastic window. It's not a real glass window. They dive through the window. The camera cuts away, and the next thing you see is the real actor getting up, dusting himself off. You don't see that the glass was plastic. You don't see that all the wood was balsa wood that broke away. You don't see the big foam that the guy fell on when he dove through there. And our people think, I've even seen plate glass window match, where one guy throws another one through an actual plate glass. I saw this one kid, he was zipped open like somebody was doing kidney surgery on him. He was lucky to be alive. And then they go get stitched up. Luckily here in Canada, well, I'll tell you, this finger right here, I didn't have any health insurance up here. They charged me, the Charlottetown Hospital, the Queen's Hospital in Charlottetown charged me 500 Canadian cash that day to stitch my finger. They didn't x-ray it, they didn't set it in place, just 500 to stitch it, because I said I just need to go. And I went that night and wrestled that night with it bandaged up.
Did you make good money?
Do I? I did it one time. Now I make a decent living. I probably make as much as a fellow who had a full-time job working 5 days a week somewhere. Yeah. But there's a difference. I have freedom. I come and go as I please. I can stop and get cold beer anytime I want. I can play around like a kid on the highway with people and have fun. That just the other night, one of the girl wrestlers walked by. They were walking by, and I had a towel. I took the towel, slapped them across their behinds. Now, if I was at a regular job, 8 to 5, and one of the ladies in the office walked by, and I slapped her with a towel, I would be up on charges. You see, that's the difference. That's where, and even the language in the locker room is oh boy. You think there's goofy noofies up there get on that screech. You think they talk dirty. Woo! The language in the locker room. So I'm listening last night, and the two girl wrestlers, they were getting dressed, and undressed or whatever they were doing. Not in front of us. They go in a separate room, but they were in with us. The fellows were all talking and yelling and doing this and saying that. And I said, "Do you guys got regular jobs?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know what would happen if this language was going on in the break room at your work?" They said, "Yeah, we'd all be fired." But where else can you one of the girls come by her and you look at her and you go, "You're showing way too much cleavage tonight," you know, or you need to have a smaller uniform. This one's just not doing you justice. Yeah, I would be kicked out of a regular job. See, I couldn't have a regular job. I couldn't. I've just had too much freedom and too much of this highway. I mean, I've seen the world through that windshield. I've seen the world through the windshield. And I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
How long do you think you can keep going on doing it?
Well, as long as they keep booking me. As long as I can drag my old carcass over there, I'll be there.
There's a guy, isn't there a guy in his 80s who still does this?
Well, Luthez went into almost his 80s, and he's passed away. And Killer Kowalski just passed away not long ago. He was in his 80s. Stu Hart was in his 80s. So it's not an age thing. It's if people want to see you and the promoter's willing to bring you in and there's interest in you, then I guess I'll be there as long as there's interest. When there's no interest, I'll be home. I'll kill myself. No.
Who do you respect in this business?
Nobody.
Nobody?
No.
You can have a beer if you want to.
No, I respect, of course, Hogan did so much to change we don't talk that often, but he did so much to change the attitude of the public and the press about our business. Vince McMahon, who was in charge of doing all that, I have high regard for.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to give him kind of a sleazy rap.
You got to understand, he's the P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
He's a promoter. He's the Don King. He's the bad guy of the hockey league. You know, there's an owner out there. There's a George Steinbrenner that none of the baseball players like very much, but they like his payday. To play in New York, they get paid very well to put up with a boss like that. So Vince is in that category, and he's proud of it. And but he's done a lot for this business as far as changing. He took us out of the outhouse, so to speak, and put us in the big house. He took us off of Back Street and put us down on Main Street. He had a marketing tool that he used extremely well that's changed the way the whole world looks at our business. And it took all of us to do that during that period of time, but I have high regard for at least those two people. And some of the behind-the-scenes people that never get their names mentioned. This one fella, Kevin Dunn, who does the television work for the WWE. He's done a fabulous job for 30 years. He's been in that truck countless hours, looking at those TV screens, directing, producing, editing, splicing, putting packages together, and just a wonderful job he does. They have a good crew of people. It's been most of them. I was back after 8 years, not so long ago. Most of the same crew is there. You know, they have a good crew. As far as the wrestlers, the young guys, I've not been around too many of them.
Sorry guys, before we carry on, I'm out of tape.
Now I don't work every day.
Okay.
Yep. So that's about the same as a regular job for somebody, $1,400, $1,500 a week.
Okay, okay.
You good? Okay, let's talk about the girls.
The girls?
The girls. Let's talk about the girls. Did you guys ever date the girls?
Yeah, there was wrestlers. wrestlers dated girl wrestlers. There's still wrestlers dating girl wrestlers now. It's common in the business. Years ago, the girls, when I started, the girls came into the wrestling business because they wanted to date the wrestlers. Now, girls get into the wrestling business because they want to be wrestlers. They want to actually be wrestlers. So there's not so much of the dating anymore like it was in our time, because the girls would travel from territory to territory back then. They might be in the Montreal territory for 2 weeks, then they'd go over to Calgary for 2 weeks, and they'd go down to Portland, Oregon for 2 weeks. So the girls were traveling around, and the girls were always, they were some of the men's party favors. So
but it makes sense. I mean,
most of the guys won't talk about being with the girls because they all have wives and children now. But I got a wife and kids, They think my wife thinks I come out here and I don't do any bad deeds on this road after 30 years. Give me a break. I do whatever. Hey, I do what a man has to do what a man has to do.
She's okay with that?
I guess she's still living with me. But no, I'm not as promiscuous as I once was. But yeah, and there was girls who, we talked about this last night in the locker room. Girls who would come to the wrestling matches just to be with the wrestlers, the little groupies. We called them arena rats. Rat. Like rats that scurry around in the arena, in the old dirty arenas. And then they would be there, and they, like I said earlier, they would go get our beer for us and have our beer when we came to town, and they would have our food that we liked, and sometimes they would bake stuff for us and bring it to the hotel, and they would drive around the hotels at night and just one car after the other and slowly cruise the hotel until some door opened up and somebody whistled and in they came and away you went. So
still a lot of groupies?
No, that's what we were talking about last night, was the fact that it's a thing of the past. There is none. Absolutely none. I asked the fellas last night to look around out there. See any girls in the building? Other than the girls, some of the girlfriends or wives that came with the wrestlers? Nope. I said, it's like that everywhere I go. They thought it was just it's Ontario. I said, no, it's not just Canada or Ontario. It's around the world. There's kids, there's grandma, grandpa, there's families, but the single girl that's 18, 19, 20, 25, nah, nowhere to be seen. They got to be out there somewhere, because I understand even here in Ontario it's like 3 girls to 1 guy. So I don't know, maybe it'll change tonight, but I wouldn't think so. I don't understand why that age group of girls is not coming around anymore. Because they did in the past. They were somewhere between 18 to like I said, 18 to 24, 25, before they were into the marriage thing, or maybe they had been married once and not married anymore, and they'd hang around with the wrestlers. But I don't know why they stopped coming around. I don't know if it was because all the wrestlers tended to look the same and no girls were turned on by them, or something. When I started, there was this one, all the good guys had the beautiful blonde hair and the tan bodies, and the girls just went nuts over them. Like I said about the bad guys, there's beer bellies and buggy whip arms, but there's no young, handsome Clark Gable type guy to swoop in and take them away now, so they don't show up for some reason.
So we'll just keep talking, because you're on a good roll there. What's the you don't seem to have a lot of scars.
I'm having a what?
You don't have a lot of scars on your face.
Not too many, but I have a bad hair day today. Terrible hair day today. Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Just need a little gel, a little spruce. You got time when you get there?
Yeah, when I get there. It's been so windy outside.
So how come you don't have a lot of scars on your face?
I have a few. It depends on what time of day or what day of the week it is. They show up some.
Show me one.
Not many. There's one long one there. Some guy, and one divot hole here.
What was that from?
Somebody stuck a blade in my head and twisted it.
Like a razor blade?
Yeah. Actually, that was not a razor blade. It was a trimmed down operating instrument, a scalpel. Really sharp, hard. Put it in my head, turned it, left a divot. Where's the divot? Right there. This one was from some guy who did take a razor blade. He spit it out of his, he had it in his mouth, spit it out in his hand, and tore my head open, and then I bled for about 2 weeks. I didn't get stitches. It got all infected. The next week I saw him. I see him with the same blade. It looked like there was no rusty thing. I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. Stupid stuff.
So are there any rules? Like, is there any rules around that kind of thing?
There was. When it was more regulated by some of the states and some of the provinces had boxing and wrestling commissions. It was like in state of Virginia, it was banned. Any show of blood, the match was stopped, whether it be boxing, wrestling, kickboxing. It was banned, it was stopped. There's been other places where people had to be, Oklahoma was one, you had to be age tested to get a license, and there was no blood allowed there. If there was blood, the match had to be stopped, which I understand now. We're a more health conscious world today than we were 20, 30 years ago when I started. But I still see these guys, they get bloody and they go out in the crowd and they spit blood on people, and to me, keep it in the ring. Why do you want to go out and do that? Or why do you want to go tear the people's furniture up? Why do you want to go out and tear the man's building up? If you're that insecure about your in-ring abilities, then you shouldn't be in the ring at all. Some people obviously are not trained well enough to keep their asses in the ring. Don't get out in the crowd, spit blood on people and things like that. That's something. I was never this blood thing, bleeding. I did it a lot, but I wasn't one who just volunteered to say, okay, I'll do it. I remember the one time my mother saw me, I had a bandana on around my head, and I had been doing this blood thing every night for about, 2 or 3 weeks. So it's one over here, one night, one over here, one over here, one over here, every night. So it's like 500 of these red scars across my head. Something happened, my bandana came up a little bit, and she saw this, and she pulled it up and went, oh my God, oh no, please son. It's like, son, please. In the jail, I've not been in jail, but in jail they call it desecration of the flesh, where I guess you get so bored, or you get so psychologically down that you just, and there's people who actually do this and like it, cut themselves, and wrestlers happen to fit into that crowd. There's some of the older guys that I know who've cut themselves. There was one fella who would do his cheeks. Captain Lou Albino from the old days. He had the goatee and always had the rings in his ears, and he was in the Cyndi Lauper music videos and everything. He would slice his cheeks. Bizarre behavior.
So do you get cut too?
You got a little cramp there. You got to readjust the Niagara's there. You want to pick up right there while we're laughing like we are, because the camera fella had to, and I did my best Stu Hart impression. He had to turn around. He was get a little cramp. He had to readjust his Niagaras. So now you know why we have so much fun out here driving. It makes a long trip go very, very fast when you're having fun, especially when someone's sitting on their Niagaras, you know.
That's right. So do you still bleed in the ring?
No, I've not done that in many years.
So no one would unexpectedly cut you?
No, absolutely not. They better not. That's like unexpectedly pulling a knife on me. Yeah, no. If they're, I don't even get involved in those kind of matches. I don't even want to be part of it, simply because of the health issue nowadays. I don't know where these fellas have been. I don't know what they have been doing. I don't know what kind of lifestyle they live, and I'm getting to the point where I don't even like their sweat on me, because I'm one of these people now that I've gotten to the point where I don't like people shaking my hand. I carry the hand solution in my bag, and I know that when you sign autographs and you meet people, you have to shake their hand. But I always clean my hands, and even last night, and maybe if you guys are around me some more later on, and last night I was having my dinner. I had one of these nice big blimpy cheeseburgers. They're nice, not plug-in blimpy or anything, but they were nice. I've never had one. And I went and washed, cleaned my hands really good, and I'm having my dinner. It's about 5:36. Nobody's supposed to be in the building. I've got my hand on my cheeseburger, and in walks this fella. Well, hello there, Honky Tonk man. I said, hi, buddy, how you doing? Well, I just wanted to shake your hand. I said, well, I'm having my dinner right now, and I'll be more than happy to shake your hand. I said, besides, I don't know where your hand has been. You know, and wherever your hand has been, I don't want it on my cheeseburger. And he kind of laughed, but I knew he didn't like it. But still, I think if someone has their hand in their food, it's not a good time to stick your hand out and say, come on, shake hands with me. You know, I don't know where that man has been. So that's how I feel about the blood issue.
Yeah. But it's still being done though, isn't it? You said the older guys are still
Yeah, it's still being done.
Is it expected? Do you think the crowd expects to see some blood?
I think the crowd we went for a while in the WWF, and there was none for about a year. None. Cage matches, chain matches, there just wasn't any. And it didn't change the people's reaction. I think people can be educated to whatever you want to educate them to. That's the power of television. That's the power of advertising. You know, if you hold something up and say it's good for long enough, people believe it's good. Now, it only takes a certain number of people to believe it's good to make the product successful. You can't, you know, satisfy all the people all the time. But if you go out and you say, well, it's going to be a first blood match, whoever bleeds first is finished, well, the people then come to expect this is going to happen. Or if you say it's a cage match, a lot of times it's been ingrained into them, into their thought process, that there's going to be blood, it's in a cage. Well, we can have cage matches with no blood, because the cage is only supposed to keep people in, not cut people up. So, will there be blood on some of the shows you might guys get some footage on? Probably. Sometimes it comes inadvertently with somebody gets elbowed in the nose, or, you know, kicked in the lip or something. I mean, I've seen all those things. You know, if it's a case like that, and the guy, if something happens that I did something to a fellow just a few weeks ago. He did it to himself. Somehow I gave him an elbow smash off the ropes. He fell forward, and when he fell forward, he hit his hand and his lip, and he cut his lip. So when he rolled over, he's bleeding. Well, he didn't bleed on me because that was toward the end of the match. I made sure he didn't bleed on me, but that happened.
Yeah. We were talking about the women before, and I'm just wondering, like, it's such a man's world, that how were the women first accepted into it, and how does that dynamic work?
They've always been accepted. They've been accepted just like anyone else into the fraternity. They've been accepted as, gosh, most of these girls around, they're like my sister. And now they're just that much younger than me. They're like my daughter. They're just, and it bothers me if some guy is trying to give one of the girls any kind of problems or troubles because, like I said before, it's one place in the locker room where if one of the girls walk by and I have a towel and I want to pop them across the backside, then it's all the fun and games, It's nothing that I wouldn't do at home with my own daughter or with my sister. But they've been accepted pretty much the same as the guys, always.
Always?
Because the girls and the midgets trained just as hard or harder than the fellas, and their workload was much more difficult. Like I said, we could come and stay in the Montreal territory or Toronto territory, stay for 1 year, stay in New Brunswick for a whole summer, go to Calgary and stay all the winter, and go to Oregon and stay year round. And the girls would come in and stay 1 week, go to all the towns in 1 week, and then drive across country and stay another week. Same with the midgets. Their travel schedule was horrendous. So they got a lot of respect out of us because they worked a lot harder.
Did they get paid as much, do you think?
No. The girls were never paid well, never. The midgets were paid good, but the girls were never paid well because the girls back then, they had to go through a booking agent that handled all the girls, and she took some of their money and put them out on the road. And it wasn't until Wendy Richter, this one girl, teamed up with the music stuff with Cyndi Lauper and was in the first WrestleMania that the women started to make real money. Real money.
Didn't Cyndi Lauper become a promoter?
No, she's a music star.
Yeah, but didn't she dip her hand?
She was trying to manage that ladies champion, Wendy Richter. Yeah, that's how she came about, yeah. And that's kind of how the first wrestling album came about, because Cyndi Lauper was into music and her boyfriend at the time was producing all her records. Girls just wanna have fun.
What about the midgets? They still
midgets they're around, but not very often. Not very often. They're using one in WWE now, Hornswoggle or something they call him. He's been around for a while. He's had a good little run there. As far as the midgets doing the circuit, no, not anymore. Not anymore. I don't even know where they're. I think there's still maybe one or two left around, but they just don't wrestle anymore.
So what do you think the difference is between then and now? Like, do you think it was better in your heyday, like when it was, or now?
Well, the money's better now. The schedule is better now. But the opportunities to go other places was better for us. We weren't tied to one company. There was at one time when I started, I'm thinking 36, 38 different territories, which were places to go and live and stay for a year or 6 months. You know, you could go to San Antonio and stay a year. You could go to Tampa, Florida and stay there for a year. Then you could move up to Pensacola, Florida and be there a year. Then go to Dallas, Texas and be there a year. Then go to San Diego and be there a year. San Francisco for a year. Portland, Oregon. Phoenix had a territory. Minneapolis had a territory. St. Louis had a territory. Tennessee had 3 territories. Kentucky had a territory. New York had a territory. Montreal was a territory. New Brunswick was a territory. So there, and Winnipeg was a territory. There was places, and Vancouver was a territory. So I just listed you, 20 out of like 40. And of course there was all over the world. You had Germany, you had England, you had Belgium, the Netherlands, you had France, you had Italy, you had Japan, you had Korea. So there was tons of Australia, New Zealand, tons of places. So if you didn't like where you were, you could just say, I'm taking off, and call somebody, and away you went. So we had more opportunities to go different places. as opposed to being contracted to one company.
Is that what you are now?
No, I'm a freelancer again. I get to go different places. I'm not contracted with any companies at all. Everything I do now is on an independent basis. Everything. Even if I go back to the Fed, when I went back to do some work for them a few months ago, it was not a contract. It was just a one payday. I got paid for the time I was there.
What do you think is a good match for you? How would you describe a great match?
A lot of money.
Yeah.
But other than making a big payday, one of those ones where the fans really get involved, really are entertained. And I come out of there having gotten a nice little workout, got my heart rate up, and I feel good about it, and my opponent feels good about it, and we're both happy, and no one got hurt.
Do you ever get nervous?
No,
Do you still
no,
get,
no.
Do you get a big adrenaline rush when you're out there?
No, I get upset when the microphone and the sound system doesn't work when I sing my song. What really POs me the most is when a ring announcer will hand me a microphone and he doesn't have it turned on. And I don't know it's not turned on. And I want to literally take that microphone and put it someplace that we can't talk about.
I think we know where
I didn't mean to choke you up on that, but
killing me.
But that happens time and time again. Now here I am, I'm supposed to be the song and dance fellow. My thing is to come out, let these people see the flashy outfit, the sideburns and the hair, and sing that song, and dead microphone. Well, I'm not electronically inclined in too many things, because there's so many different kinds of microphones, I don't know how to turn the dadgum thing on and off. Don't hand it to me that way. It happened to me a couple nights ago, and I swear, if it's on YouTube, you will see me saying, I was telling the referee in a very low tone of voice where I wanted to stick that microphone in that guy. See, we're able to talk out there. At least I am. The young kids can't do it, but I can talk where people, they don't know I'm talking. You know, I could say something like that. My lips aren't moving. I want to kill that son of a.
So you always open with a song?
So I'm like a what do we call it? Ventriloquist, where I can. We have the ability to say things without moving our lips. And we speak a language. It's a dying language. No one speaks it. I speak it. I taught it to my kids, and one day my daughter was watching. Oh yeah, brother, Hogan knows best, brother. She says, Dad, what? Hogan was just speaking Carney to his children. So, were they speaking back? She said, yeah, they were. I said, see, you're not the only one that knows it. But it's Carney. It's called Carney. It's carnival language. And then we would say things like, you're holding the water. That's called whiz otter. You got the biz otter, whiz otter, bottle of water. You know, I'm a kids, they'll let see son of a biz eat, you know.
Give me some more of that.
But it's just a language, and I taught it to my son and my daughter just by when we would drive by, because the kids like Toys R Us, you know, or McDonald's. McDonald's was the one. Mizak. Who wants a Mizak? Mizak Dizonals. Go get the biz ear. Yeah, in fact, hand me a biz ear.
So does everyone?
Yeah, his and Mizzy a biz ear. His and Mizzy a biz ear.
Bump's coming up.
Does everyone know that one? Is it that like
just old timers?
The old timers?
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, the young kids don't know it. Chiz ears. Chiz ears on the biz ears. But yeah, you know, it's like my his air. It's a biz ad, his air, diz a. I can pick the phone up right now and talk to my kids and my wife. She had to learn it.
The bad
because
hair. I caught that. That's bad hair day.
Yeah. She had to learn because there's certain times when we needed to talk to each other and we don't want other people to know what we're talking about. There's certain times I need to tell my children to she's that is up. Shut up. Without having to say it in front of people. You know, I can just look away and go, she's that is up. That means shut up. And somebody go, what did he say? Who's he talking? Oh, he's just rambling on.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But it all started with a Mizak. Bizig, Mizak, Dizonals.
And is that the kind of thing you do in the ring? Like when you're talking to the referee? Would he know what you're talking about?
The old timers would, the new ones don't. Nobody in the locker room speaks in that. I could go in there and say, you guys already know more than they know tonight. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
You got the whiz otter. The Mizike. He's and me the Mizike. Make sure it's turned on. Yeah, it's really something. But see there again, it's a dying. To me, it's an art. To me, and I think if you ask any older wrestler, it's an art form. That it's a dying art form. Our language, our customs are dying. We spoke earlier. I told you my wife was Ukrainian. I go up for the Ukrainian wedding to get married to her, and all her mom's sisters and brothers and her in-laws, they're all speaking Ukrainian to each other. But my wife, she doesn't know Ukrainian, so she can't pass that heritage and down to her children now. So it's really something when ethnic groups can maintain their heritage and their language and their customs. And I understand when you're in another country you have to adapt to other countries' customs and things, but you should still never lose your own heritage. And it's happened in our business. It's died off to the point where only guys that's been around the last 15, 18, 20 years speak the language, know the secret handshake that we have. It's all sorts of things that is for me to be in the locker room and see it. It's like what's happened to us? There's no girls around anymore hanging outside the buildings. Nobody knows the language anymore. Guys aren't dressing in nice outfits and they're not performing and entertaining. They don't know how to shake the hand the right way.
What's the secret handshake?
It's just a handshake where you don't squeeze someone's hand. It's a very soft, gentle handshake. If someone walks in the locker room tonight and he grabs my hand like he's been out on Pier 51 all day, hey, how you doing, mate? I don't want him touching me again. He's going to hurt me. The handshake means at least you're soft and gentle. Which means you're not going to hit me in the mouth. You're not going to burst my ears. You're not going to pull my hair hard. When we leave the match, we're going to be happy. Not ready to fight each other in the back because you did all these dastardly deeds to me and really did try to hurt me. So it's a handshake. It's a handshake like that. Like that. Very gentle.
So
but men have a tendency, especially when I shake hands out here on the street, they want to show their manlyhood. Last night, I always tend to forget. My finger's still messed up. Why I don't use my other hand instead of letting them, hey, good eye, mate, crack down on me. She's got to clean off all the...
So how many...
I told you in Alberta, this stuff over here, you see this? Yeah, over in Alberta in the cold, it freezes. It becomes nothing but ice.
How many old timers are left that you
Oh gosh,
run into?
There's probably I come across Valentine, Greg Hammer Valentine. I'll see him next week. Sometimes once, twice a year I run across Jimmy Snuka. King Kong Bundy, he's dropped out of sight now. I don't see him. Luke the Bushwhacker, who you had a poster I signed earlier. Luke was here in August with me. He's been around 35 years, 40 years, and fortunately I get to go back. I'll go back to this Hall of Fame thing, and for the WWE, I'll get to see all the older guys, and that'll be fun.
What about the Iron Sheik?
Sheik, I see him periodically. Sheik is Sheik, but he's only the Sheik like you guys see him when the light is on the camera. He's not that way with me, or when the camera's not around. Now, sure, he's gonna drink his beers and he's gonna smoke. Unbelievable, the green gimmick, you know, the white gimmick, A to Z, Daddy. He's gonna have it, but he's a great guy. He's a great guy, great old timer. He's in bad shape and they can hardly get around. Somebody said, I don't want to book Sheik. He's kind of goofy and he does all this nutty stuff. I said, at least you don't have to worry about him leaving the building. I said, why is it? They said, why is that? I said, well, he's in a wheelchair, so he can't go anywhere. And if you put the lock on it, he wouldn't know how to unlock it. So, come get me. Unbelievable. Somebody. I said, we'll want to move.
How does he get in the ring?
He doesn't do any ring work anymore.
He doesn't?
No,
So what's he do?
just
make appearances?
just autographs. Yeah. No more. He never had his knees taken care of. Luke Bushwhacker told me, I called him not so long ago. I said, how you doing? He's great. He said, I had my shoulder fixed. I had both my knees fixed. He said, I feel great. And then I brought him in to do these things when my hand was broken up here in last August. And he was in great shape and was doing very well. Yeah, he was running around like a 20-year-old.
Mm.
Yeah.
I saw some crazy footage of Sheik before.
Oh, he's nuts.
Crazy.
He can't help it. He only does it for the camera.
Okay.
I'm surprised he has not been put in jail though, because he does it in the airport, and he does it at Customs and Immigration. How he gets into the country, I don't know. But then the other question is, how does he get out?
Yeah.
I mean, the immigration held me up for no reason. I've got a visa, and I've got the passport stamped with a visa. My wife's a Canadian, my son's a Canadian, and they tell me I'm supposed to go to immigration. For what? I come across this border all the time.
For bad hair day.
I guess. No, and they got some Mexican kid in there, and the lady says, why are you trying to come to Canada? You have been deported out of the United States already. Yeah, and that's who I'm. And then another family was there, and they says, have you guys ever been to Canada before? No, never. He says, well, according to your passport, somebody has entered Canada using your passport. Yeah. So that's what I'm dealing with, and I flew to Los Angeles, took my wife, took our marriage certificates, birth certificates, everything. Spent 2 days down at the Canadian Consulate General's office to get my visa, which is a U.S. green card. It's the same thing. And to be told by them, you should never have any more troubles at the border. You should never have to go to immigration again. And they keep sending me in there.
Are we here?
Went down to the bar, just about 6 feet down. We had to carry him back.
Yeah. Third time, I'm like, holy hell, what happened to me, man? Somebody get me to my room.
Didn't even know where he was. Then he told his old lady, I got him a bottle to take home.
I had to carry her some.
He said, hon, take it easy on that shit.
I left her on the patio, passed out.
I called him up. I said, what are you doing? He says, not bad. I said, how'd the old lady take to the Newbie Street? He says, well, she's down in the middle of the street doing a Newbie jig. She's heads up in the pool. Oh my God.
I left her outside. She slept on the patio all night.
I wonder.
He was the worst, though. He was in the middle of the street, downtown in Ottawa, holding that bottle up in the air, no shirt on.
It's deadly shit.
And he blames me for it.
What do you get?
I don't even remember how I got home.
Nobody does. Nobody ever does.
He remembers nothing about it.
Nobody ever does.
He said, why did you do that to me?
Do you need some help with that honky tonk, man?
Yeah, because I'm not good at this shit. What the hell's that?
It's my phone. That's my boss. I'm trying to get you laid. He's looking for someone for you.
I don't care about that. I don't care about that anymore. See, it's what you guys don't understand.
It's Sky. She says, I'm going to hang around Cornwall because I want to have sex with Honky later tonight.
Sky is the girl that was
managing Ben. Did she slap him hard?
Did she?
Did you do a slap with her at the end of the match?
No, she pulled my hair really hard and I got pissed off.
That was her first match.
Yeah, she was like yanking on my hair and I told the guy and I said, if she pulls my hair like this again, I'm gonna slap the shit out of this bitch.
Screech and Smirnoff or just Screech?
Just Screech, I'm a Screech, man.
You're Screech.
Oh, that's the girl who was pulling
The
her
little
hair?
blonde girl, yeah, she she almost decapitated me when she hung on my neck on the rope, which was okay because I could put my arms
She
down.
does have big tits, though. You signed them later on in the night.
But then she like pulled my hair like she was plucking a chicken. And I don't like people who pull my hair.
No?
Or give me chops. What the f? Sorry.
I thought you weren't drinking.
What the hell does the Transport Canada do with these highways?
What have you been drinking tonight, Kendall?
You come up to this country, you expect things to be nice and clean and everyone be good, and the roads are like the worst. This is bad. This is like being in a third world country.
It is.
Can you dodge those potholes? Can we put our tax dollars to work? You know, I have a Canadian bank account. You know that.
Yes, I do.
They take the money out of my Canadian bank account, the taxes. They take them out. They don't ask me to pay the tax. They just take them out anyway. What are they doing with my money on these highways?
Is this
It's
a highway?
awfully bumpy. Are we on the?
Can
Where are we?
Can we at least get on
No,
the Queen's Highway or something? I mean, God save the Queen.
I think we're there.
Bring
after
back
the
Renee
stop sign.
Levesque. I mean, for Christ's sakes.
All right. So we were talking about your son.
My son. Yeah.
Was that a huge disappointment for you, or?
Hold on,
Oh,
before you
about-
talk any more about your son.
Yeah. Bottle Screech. About his drug habits. Yes, it's disappointing because you had asked me earlier in this however it plays. Was my being away from home, maybe did it cause any problems? And I said, well, I don't know. No one ever told me. But then I have a son who gets himself caught up in this drug world. And I had a friend who told me once that these kids between 18 and like 35, that generation of American kids are called America's lost youth. And he happens to be in that group of people. He had a good job. He was in college, on scholarship, playing golf. How many people would love to play golf in college? How many people would love to be on a scholarship to play golf in college? And he was one of them, and ended up now with nothing, no money. Cars parked in front of my house. I had to have it towed the last time he was locked up. The car doesn't run.
What exactly was he locked up for?
Paraphernalia, cocaine on him. Small amounts, not enough for. But he had felony charges. But felony charges in Arizona come with even just paraphernalia. So if you have more than what they think you should have in rolling papers, or you have a small amount of marijuana or a small amount of cocaine, then it's a felony charge, which if you do community service and pay your fines, then it's reduced down to a misdemeanor, and they eventually washes out of the court.
But you don't blame yourself for that, do you?
No, because I think we choose. It's the life we choose. I choose to drink the Screech. I choose to have the beers.
You look at your daughter, though.
That's
She's
my
completely
choice.
opposite of
Totally
your personality.
opposite. Totally
and
opposite.
your wife's, from what I could tell.
Totally opposite of. But I mean, can we control what someone else does? No, we cannot control that. All we can do is say, I wish you would not do that. I hope you don't do that, because if you do this, this is what's going to happen. But these kids, this bunch of boys, between 18 and 35 years old in our country. They have no education. They drop out of school. They want $20 an hour for a job with no education, no training, no ticket for anything, and then they're all lawyers. We know the law. They can't lock us up for this. Oh, you know the law? If you guys are so smart, why in the hell are you keep getting caught? If you're so smart. I've been around for 56 years of my lifetime, and I have never been handcuffed. Never. I've had some speeding tickets, but I have never been arrested and sent to jail and spent the night there or had to call my parents to come and get me out of jail. Never. Now, who's smarter? Those 19 to 35-year-old kids who think they're lawyers, or us old guys who just drive along real slow, have our screech, and go about our merry way?
How about you, Deb? Have you ever been arrested?
I have been arrested quite a few times, actually, but I haven't been
For what?
convicted of anything. For drunken fighting and for drunken stuff. Nothing serious. But yeah, I spent the night in jail numerous times. But luckily, nothing serious. Anything that's gone to court, I've gotten off of.
Where are your parents?
My parents are in Ottawa.
Yeah? Do they like what you do?
No, they do not. They're not wrestling fans at all. And I didn't even tell them I was wrestling today because they'd be furious with me if they knew. Because they don't understand wrestling. Don't you have to love wrestling? It's either in your blood or it isn't. Like you can't understand someone that wrestles and loves wrestling if you're not a wrestler. I didn't even tell my parents I was promoting this show today. And I sure, if they saw that I bled today, they'd be furious with me. They don't understand it. I remember one time I had to get 52 stitches. I called my dad. I'm like, "Can you pick up my car from this arena? I'm in the hospital." And he's like, "Why are you in the hospital?" I'm like, "Didn't you just see the match?" He's like, "Oh, that was real blood." And I'm like, "Yes." They just don't understand how wrestling works. But my dad's totally different than I am.
Yeah.
And same with my mom's just, I guess you could say, a housewife, and my dad has a decent job, but they don't understand. They're not athletes, and they don't understand wrestling.
So we were talking earlier, like you went actually through training for this. Like, how did you train?
Yeah, at the Hearts.
How did you train to do this?
Here's another reason why my parents hate me. I was a national champion in amateur wrestling when I was still in high school. I had numerous scholarships to schools in the States and in Canada, and I turned them down out of high school to become a professional wrestler. Looking back now, I realize I was stupid to do that, but I didn't care. I was a great amateur wrestler, but I didn't care. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. So I don't think my dad and my mom have ever really forgiven me for that. But I don't want to be I'm a good Ultimate Fighter. I'm training for that right now. I don't want to do it. My heart is in wrestling. It's all I want to do. I can't explain it. I don't understand why I love it, but I love it.
But can you tell me, like, what kind of training did you do? Like, what?
Yeah, I went out to the Hearts. Stu was still alive at that point, and Bruce Hart was in charge of the school. I know Honky knows Bruce very well, and they would punish me. It was called the Dungeon. It's one of the most famous training schools in the world.
Sadistic.
Yeah, it's not around now.
Most sadistic school.
Like some
It's not
wrestling
around
schools would torture you by making you do lots of cardio, but the Dungeon would make you go through a lot of pain. And both Stu and Bruce wasn't a tough guy, but Stu was. But Bruce still kept Stu's values. Like he would want to punish you. Like you would have to be tortured if you were going to make it as a pro wrestler. He didn't care. He could see someone like me who's a good athlete, and he would still punish me. And he would rather take a skinny guy that could go through the punishment than like a football player that couldn't go through the punishment.
Like, what do you mean by torture?
Maybe if the practices were at 10 in the morning, I'd have to take 60 slaps to the face every morning, maybe 100 chops, maybe 200 break fall. Every morning in the dungeon floor, which isn't like a wrestling ring, the dungeon floor was mats over concrete. It wasn't over wood. Honky's been in the dungeon, haven't you, Honky? It hurts.
It's
You learn how to fall properly, or you break your back.
I was there to witness the punishment. I didn't train there because I had already been trained. I was 12 years in the wrestling business before I went to Stu's and to the Heart Dungeon, and I saw what they did. And Brett himself even has a tape of some young fella. They taped it where Stu has this young fella down in the dungeon, and the young fella is screaming at the top of his lungs, screaming for his life. Ah! Ah! And Stu's going, hey, have a little discipline, be a man. Ah! It was like someone on a torture rack, and when he talks about what Bruce did, Bruce would mentally and physically break you down, and Bruce was the smallest of all the Hart boys.
And Bruce would get off on breaking you down.
Right.
Bruce actually got off on this.
Yes.
He loved breaking people. He loved taking it could be the greatest recruit ever.
Yeah.
But he would go out of his way to make sure the recruit got broken down.
Yes.
And Bruce had how many chances to be signed with the WWE as like a AAA version of WWE, similar to Florida Championship Wrestling now. But he's so sadistic that he just likes training people for himself. Like he likes to see a big guy get beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. He gets off on it. He loves this. He would have us do scenario, like some of the things he would do in practice is say I'd have to wrestle Natty, who's in WWE now. Natalia is her name. He'd say, okay, Devin, here's a scenario for you. You got Natty pregnant. Now you want to kick the baby. You want to kick her in the stomach. This is just, I'm explaining to you how sadistic Bruce is and what gets him on. He'd be like, okay, you got Natty pregnant and you want to get rid of the baby. So you're going to kick her in the stomach. You're going to have an argument and you're going to kick her in the stomach and you're going to try and get the baby out of Natty. You're going to do this for about 5 minutes. Then Natty's going to fire up, slap you in the face about 20 times. Because Bruce loves girl versus guys, as you know. He really, really loves that kind of stuff. So the girl would slap and beat the shit out of me after. But he would just like have us do these scenarios for fun. But I still agree. Bruce may not have been the greatest trainer, but I agree, he at least got the. I don't mean to use the word pussies.
He taught you self-discipline.
Yeah. You have to admit, everyone that's been through the dungeon, including Chris Benoit, the Jake the Snakes, even you, we all have a different mentality. Like TJ Wilson's and the Harry Smiths, we have a different mentality than someone that's been through another wrestling school, because we actually had to fight for real to get trained. We were beaten down, and we had to learn to like take the beating. It took 3 months of just getting beat up every single practice before he actually started teaching me the moves.
He ran it.
That sounds really messed up, though.
He ran it like a concentration camp where.
Well, some people would last 1 week. You take the 3,000. It was 3,500 American. Some people would you take the 3,500 American. They'd last 1 week and they would leave, and he was fine with that. And other people would stay. I was one of the lucky ones that stayed.
But isn't that emotional abuse? I'm sorry, but that's emotionally abusive.
You know, at the time, be getting slapped in the face, chopped. It proved my toughness. I think you have to learn that. You can't just have someone train you. You can't just give someone $300 and have them teach you all the secrets. How do you have respect? Wrestling may not be 100% real, but you should have some toughness. If someone looks at you and calls you a phony or a fake, wrestling's not fake. If someone calls you a fake, you should be able to fight them. And I do respect Bruce, and I'll always respect Bruce for that. He got rid of the people that couldn't stand up for themselves in a case like that. If you went through the dungeon, if someone called you that said that you were a fake, you would have the mentality to be able to fight them. You wouldn't just be like, okay, yeah, I'm a fake. I'll walk away from this. Like a lot of these guys that you probably saw wrestle tonight. You must have noticed the difference between my match and everyone else's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The way they teach us in the Hearts had a big influence in Japan. They were influenced by Japan. Stampede used to have a deal with New Japan, so we were trained the Japanese way, which is very realistic. You're hitting people as hard as you can, but you're hitting them in places where it's not going to cause permanent damage.
But you got hurt. Like you get hurt.
You get...
What's wrong with you? Niagara's bothering you?
What's that?
Pull your sack
Niagara's
up.
a burden.
Pull your sack up.
Yeah.
I wish that was it.
You ready?
But you get hurt. You get hurt. Right?
You get hurt, but that's part of the sport. I don't think you should go... Maybe not every night, but...
Feel this.
Woo! Here we go. Woo!
Oh,
They-
tough. I'm just gonna be devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
because I know what you do.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to have the appearance of violence, and we talk to you a lot about
It
this.
is wrestling
About
hurts.
the blood and the...
Look at his arms.
Wrestling hurts.
It hurts.
Wrestling hurts.
But you know what?
It's not fake.
Okay, but
You
know
take
what?
stuff.
What you just
Do you think
told
I would
me-
let someone slap me in the face in real life? If we're at the bar that I'm going to right now, what would happen if someone slapped me in the face?
I'll try it later.
No, you just tell me what you think would happen.
Well, I don't think it'd
Would
be
they
pretty.
be dead?
Yeah. But what
In
you just told me
wrestling,
about
I
the
have to take
training-
a slap in the face.
Yeah, I know.
In
you
wrestling, I have to take. Look at my head. Look at this. I have to take a chair shot to the head. Or not? What was it? A chair? It wasn't even a chair. It was a 30-pound case that I was being hit with
Yeah.
tonight. In wrestling, you have to be. Here's my head. Hit me with it. In a real fight, if someone tried to hit me with that, I'd beat the crap out of them. So in wrestling, is kind of weird. You saw that clip. I took a coffee pot to the head. You think in real life I'm going to let someone bash me with a bottle to the head? In wrestling, you allow that stuff to happen. It's not fake. It's not fake at all. I promise you that. My
The
arms are
training
killing me.
seems
My
really
back's
weird,
killing me.
though. The training seems a bit like...
The
seems
training
a
that
little
I
fucked
went
up to
through
me.
is different from the others, though. But you watch my match and you see what it's like. And you see my attitude and you see Honky's attitude. Honky's been down the road. He may be taking a bit easy now, but weren't you a participant in the big concession stand brawl in Tufalo with Lawler and all them?
I look at it as I've earned the right.
To take it easy.
I've earned the right now to do it my way,
Yeah.
as opposed to some punk kid telling me how I should do it when he is not trained the way that this fellow's been trained. If he tells me to go do something, I respect him telling me that, and I would go do it because I know how and where he was trained and how he was trained. And he was trained in a disciplined attitude to where you have lost everything of your own control, and then you're reprogrammed to be this other person.
And you think that's good?
I wasn't broken down that way.
But do you think that's good,
My
that kind of
my-
breaking down?
My training was physical training, and learn. But then I wasn't.
Where were you trained
I
anyways?
was trained in a barn with Herb Welch, and Coco Beware was my training partner, and we trained. And he didn't break us down mentally, but we were broken down physically. But our mental breakdown came for the next 2 or 3 years on the road, where we traveled with the veterans who broke us down, just like Bruce Hart broke him down mentally.
So you have to be mentally stripped.
You have to be
to do this.
You have to be mentally totally changed in your mentality, because there's no respect there if you are not reprogrammed.
You'd be eaten up.
Yes.
What would Brian Pillman and Bruce Hart do to you if you were weak? Do you remember, if you heard stories about Bill Kazmaier?
Right. I was with Bill.
Tell us about Bill Kazmaier, the world's strongest man. Tell us about what Bruce Hart and Brian Pillman did to him. They fucked with his mind. This guy was a celebrity. He won the world's strongest man.
He's on the World's Strongest Man TV show now doing commentary.
What did they do to him? They screwed
broke
his mind so much.
They broke him down. Brian Pillman was a fantastic athlete, a great person, and a great wrestler in this business with a great mental attitude. He was like 5'7", 5'8", 160, 70 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And he took this Bill Kazmaier, who was 6'2", 6'4", 330 pounds, world's strongest man, and they made him cry like a baby. They made him
every night.
They made him quit the business.
You ask Bill Kazmaier about his time in Stampede Wrestling. Made him quit wrestling.
Strongest man in the world. The strongest man
He couldn't
contest.
handle it mentally.
Who could by himself go and train, look in a mirror, pull the weights, and do all those things he had to do alone. But when it came time for him to stand up and be somebody else other than that one person who could
He was petrified of 5'7",
Right.
230-pound Brian
Right.
Pillman.
I was there.
Brian Pillman is dead now, in case you don't know.
I was there and saw that.
It reminds me of like how people train pit bulls.
It's similar, yes, it is. But like I said, his training all came in one segment of a period of time. Mine came over a period of time where mine was learned then in the cars, like we're driving tonight, and we've driven today. I was trained by, I had to be the bartender to open the beer and the whiskey to hand it to the veterans, and if I didn't do it, they slapped me around. I was trained that if I wanted to use the restroom, I didn't ask to get out of the car to go to the bathroom until they went. I didn't ask to go before they asked. And when I was in the locker room, if there was no chair for me to sit in, but there was an empty chair, I sat on the floor unless I knew that someone told me I could go sit in that chair. There's this etiquette, this professionalism that he learned it in his training. I had to learn it on the road. That if you showed up with stinky, dirty clothes like I talked about in the locker room, you got the shit kicked out of you and you got your clothes thrown out in the garbage, and they told you don't show up tomorrow like that or we're going to kick you out.
They put boot blackener on you sometimes and make you wash. I've heard that story. If you had stinky clothes, they put boot blackener on your body, so you would have to shower so much to get the boot blackener off you. You finally smell clean. That's one of the things that went on in pro wrestling.
You weren't allowed in the locker room with dirty clothes and stinky body. You had to dress outside with the pigs and the animals at the carnival.
Yeah.
That's the discipline. I didn't learn it in my training. He did. I had to learn it the hard way on the road. And I'm going, gosh, I'm a college kid. I just came out of college. What's this all about? It's about respect. It's about knowing your position. It's about knowing that you are absolutely nobody without a partner or without an opponent or without a referee. There's so many variables that go into what goes on in that ring. You are absolutely no one by yourself. You are nothing.
And that's what they're missing in today's wrestling. People get contracts out of nowhere. With paying no dues, they get a contract. I can be a main event star in Puerto Rico, and they won't hire me, but they'll hire some football player off the road. And look what happens with the Brock Lesnar's. As soon as they get some stardom, they quit. Because they don't have the heart for real pro wrestling.
So let me ask this though. Do you think through all that stripping down of your emotional state and taking you to the place where you think you're nobody, do you feel like you're stronger people now? Like, does that make you a stronger person
I'm
now?
happy I went through it. I think every pro wrestler should have to go through that training. It weeds out the weak people, especially today. They have no business wrestling a professional wrestler. The guy that Honky wrestled, luckily Honky's a nice guy and he didn't beat the shit out of him. I have a mean streak in me, I would beat the crap out of him. But Honky wasn't. Honky's relaxed and he's nice.
I can promise you this. Our world economy would not be in the position it is now if there was more training like we went through for the CEOs of these companies. If they had the discipline instilled in them that we had instilled in us, these people who run these major corporations, they would have been weeded out, kicked out many years ago.
Without a doubt.
They would have been gone. They would not have messed up our lives and our children's life, because unless you can walk the walk and talk the talk, how the heck can you tell someone else how to do it?
Exactly.
It disturbs me of the lack of self. That's what disturbs me about my own son. The lack of self-discipline. You can't self-discipline yourself to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it. I'm going to stop. There's no self-discipline. And that's what it's all about. You have to be able to discipline yourself and to say, I am going to be better than that next person. I am going to achieve more success than the next person. I got the shit beat out of you in school. I got the shit beat out of me on the highway. Okay, here we go.
Up he goes.
Oh. What a nice ass he has. We're going back to his hotel after, and we're having some fun.
Been the same since you left.
Oh,
I lost you, Craig.
Huh? He was straight. He did nothing but train.
Hey, if you talk to any girls in Berryville, you got to do your accent. Let me hear it one more time.
Oh,
Yeah,
what's
you good?
the one over thing? What did I say there?
Pretend Vicky's your girlfriend. Pick her up with that accent.
Hello, darling. How you doing tonight?
I think Honky likes you.
Hello.
Hey, this guy's the greatest intercontinental champion of all time.
My name's Johnny Cash.
Okay, so just to get back to it, I think, coming from a chick's perspective,
Screech.
that whole mental abuse thing is really fucked up.
We
Unfortunately,
can back it up with Brutus Beefcake.
unfortunately, we don't have the fact on that, so
Hey, you want to call Brutus?
no.
So,
I'd rather call
Honky,
Jake.
what did you think about all the blood today?
I saw a lot of broken tables and furniture, and I saw a lot of blood. As we discussed earlier, it's, at one time in my life it was part of what I did, but now it's not my cup of tea, because I'm a song and dance guy with a jumpsuit on, and I leave that to fellas like him, the hardcore, more fighters.
I'm not hardcore. I'm a fighter. I go in there to fight. I don't go in there to wrestle. I go in there to win any way I can.
So I leave
if I had to use a table, if I had to use a chair, it's just part of the match.
So I leave that. I leave that part to fellas like him who like to do the fighting. We need it. The cover of the book does not tell the story. You have to have many pages of the book to tell the story, and a wrestling show has to have many pages, and it has to have many scenarios and many different characters. We didn't have midgets today. We didn't have girls.
We had some valets though.
We had a valet. She was
Very big titted valet.
she was very Saskatoonish.
She was well endowed.
Yeah, she was very
We all signed her tits.
We dress in the same locker room, and we have the same scars on our head, and we take the same bumps, and it's wrestling is a fountain of youth.